你好, in this video, our topic is Chinese Word Order 01. I'm going to answer two questions. Question number 1. What are the basic sentence structures in Chinese? I'm going to teach you 8 basic sentence structures in Chinese. You're going to find it's really useful in your Chinese learning. Question number 2. How to make sentences in Chinese by yourself? I'm going to teach you how to do that step by step in this video. Keep on watching. Let's get started. Question number 1. What are the basic sentence structures in Chinese? I'm going to teach you 8 basic sentence structures in Chinese. Let's do it one by one. Structure number 1. Subject plus degree adverb plus adjective. This is the most common structure for you to describe something with an adjective in Chinese. For example, 你很聪明. 你很聪明. Literally, it is you very smart. Actually, it means you are smart in English. 很 here doesn't mean the real very. What is the real very? Actually, I made a video before to talk about to be in Mandarin Chinese. I put the link in the description below. You can check it out there to know more about to be in Mandarin Chinese. And let's see what the real very is. 他非常好. 他非常好. Here, 非常 is the real very. It means he is very good. Let's move on to another structure. Structure number 2. Subject plus verb plus object. You are going to find this structure is the easiest one we have in Chinese because it is the same like that we have in English. For example, 我爱你. Literally, it is I love you. Easy, right? Let's move on to another example. 他学习中文. 他学习中文. Nothing difficult. Here, in English, we have the conjugation for learn, but in Chinese, we don't. Just, he learned Chinese. But it's easy for you to get. And it's even easier because you don't need to remember any conjugations for verbs in Chinese. Structure number 3. Subject plus time plus degree adverb plus adjective. Let's see the example. 我昨天真开心. 我昨天真开心. Literally, it is I, yesterday, really happy. We don't really have the was here, and that's why we don't change anything for the past tense. And in English, we don't have the conjugations for adverbs, right? In English, it is I was really happy yesterday. We have to change the word order a little bit. We need to place the time in between the subject and the degree adverb. What is the degree adverb? You can think it in this way. It's just a link word in between the subject and the adjective. The other way is also fine. We can do it time, subject, degree adverb, and adjective. That is, 昨天我真开心. 昨天我真开心. As you can see, you can place time in between the subject and the degree adverb, or put the time at the beginning of the sentence. Which one do I recommend? If you are a beginner, I recommend you to do it with the second structure. Why? Because it works also in English. Just make use of the similarities between English and Chinese to make it easier for you to learn Chinese. Let's move on. Another example. 我最近好忙. 我最近好忙. Literally, it means I recently so busy. So 好 here is so. You're going to hear it a lot in spoken Chinese. In English, it is, I have been so busy recently. Again, for the present perfect tense, have been, we don't change anything for that because we don't really have that part in Chinese. You can also do it with a second structure. Put time at the very beginning. It becomes 最近我好忙. 最近我好忙. Which one do I recommend you to use? Again, if you are a beginner, I recommend you to use this structure. Let's move on. Structure number 4. Subject plus time plus verb plus object. Let's see an example. 我今天有时间. 我今天有时间. Literally, it means I today have time. In English, it is I have time today. You can see the word order is different. We just put time in between the subject and the verb. The other one is also okay. We can do it with a time, subject, verb, object. It is like this. 今天我有时间。今天我有时间。It's easy, right? Just place the time at the beginning of the sentence. Let's move on to another example. Wow, this one has a long time phrase. Let's see. 我们明天上午9点上课. Literally, it means we tomorrow morning 9 have classes. In English, it is we have classes at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And you can see the difference here. In English, we have at, but we don't have that part in Chinese. And the word order for the time phrase is almost reversed, right? In English, we do the clock time, part of the day, and the day. But in Chinese, what we do is the day, the part of the day, and the clock time. So you can see in English, it is from the small to the big. But in Chinese, it is from the big to the small. Just remember that it's just a different perspective. And remember, we put time in between the subject and the verb. And the other one also works. And I recommend you to do it with this one. Put time at the beginning of the sentence. Time is flexible. That is, 明天上午9点我们上课。明天上午9点我们上课。Let's move on to another structure. Structure number 5. Subject plus place plus verb plus object. And you can see this example. 他在星巴克喝咖啡。他在星巴克喝咖啡。Literally, it is he at Starbucks drinks coffee. In English, it is he drinks coffee at Starbucks. You can tell it's different. And it's easy, actually. We just put the place in between the subject and the verb. And it's the same like that we have in English. We need a at, 在 here. That's it. How do you remember that? It's easy. You can think he must be at Starbucks first, and then he drinks coffee. Let's move on to another example. 我们在电影院看电影。我们在电影院看电影. And you can see in English we have in, but in Chinese we just do it with 在. Literally, it means we in the cinema watch movies. In English, it is we watch movies in the cinema. Just put the place in between the subject and the verb. We need to be in the cinema first, then we watch movies there, right? Let's move on. Structure number 6. Subject plus how plus verb plus object. See the example. 我坐火车去上海。我坐火车去上海. Literally, it means I, by train, go to Shanghai. In English, it is I go to Shanghai by train. You may say, hey, Andy, you just told me in structure number 5. We need to put the place before the verb. How come Shanghai here goes after the verb? Let me compare these two sentences, and you are going to see the difference by yourself. First one, 我坐火车去上海. This is for set structure number 6. And second one, 我在上海坐火车. What's the difference between them? Let me analyze it for you. For the first sentence, Shanghai, actually, it is not the place where you are. Shanghai is the destination. You are taking a train to go to Shanghai. You are not in Shanghai yet. But for the second sentence, 我在上海坐火车. I am in Shanghai already. I take a train in Shanghai. It should be in the train station, right? Shanghai is the place where the action takes place. You take a train there. That's the difference. For the first sentence, Shanghai is your destination. You're not there yet. That's why it's an object. For the second sentence, you are in Shanghai already. It is the place where you take the train. Is that clear? I hope you get it. And here, I need to talk about a common mistake my students made. A common mistake, 我去在上海. This is a wrong sentence, but it looks fine. I is 我, 去 is to go, 在 is to, Shanghai is Shanghai, right? What's the problem? Actually, it is not your fault, because in almost all those dictionaries, you're going to find the translation for 去 is to go. Actually, it is not. It is to go to. 去 means to go to, and 在 means in. The sentence becomes, I go to in Shanghai. Now you see the problem, right? I go to in Shanghai. You cannot go to Shanghai while you're in Shanghai. That's paradoxical, right? And that's the problem. How to correct the sentence? It is easy. We can do it with 我去上海 or 我在上海. Both are fine. The first one means I go to Shanghai. The second one means I am in Shanghai. But you can't piece them together. It becomes I go to in Shanghai. That's impossible. Hope you get it. Let's move on. 他跟司机说中文. 他跟司机说中文. Literally, it means he, with the driver, speaks Chinese. In English, it is he speaks Chinese with the driver. You can see the difference, right? In English, we have the way how you do something in the end. But in Chinese, we place the how, the way how you do something, between the subject and the verb. That's it. Let's move on to structure number 7. Subject plus time plus place plus verb plus object. It's a bit complicated, right? And it works with the time at the beginning. Remember, time is flexible, and I recommend you to place time at the beginning of the sentence. To save your time, I don't show the second pattern anymore. Let's see the example. 他今天在家吃中国菜. 他今天在家吃中国菜. Literally, it means he today at home eats Chinese food. In English, it is he eats Chinese food at home today. And you can see the word order is different. And you may ask, why do Chinese put the time and place before the verb and the object? You can think in this way. Today starts first, and he's at home, and then he eats Chinese food. Sort of, what happens first comes first. Let's move on to another example. 我明天在学校学习中文. 我明天在学校学习中文. Literally, it means I, tomorrow, at school, learn Chinese. In English, it is I learn Chinese at school tomorrow. It's a bit complicated. Actually, you just change the word order and then it works. You just place time after the subject. Put a 在 there, and then you have a place, and then the verb, and then the object. Let's move on to the most complicated structure. Number 8. Subject plus time plus place plus how plus verb plus object. The sentence is really complicated, and you can see. 他今天在家用筷子吃中国菜. 他今天在家用筷子吃中国菜. Literally, it means he today at home with the chopsticks eats Chinese food. In English, it is he eats Chinese food with the chopsticks at home today. The word order is different. And what you really need to remember is just place time, place how, and then you have the verb and the object. You can think today starts first, and then he's at home and he uses chopsticks and then eats Chinese food. What comes first, make it first. That's it. Let's move on to another example. 我明天在学校跟老师学习中文. 我明天在学校跟老师学习中文. Literally, it means I, tomorrow, at school with a teacher, learn Chinese. In English, it is I learn Chinese with a teacher at school tomorrow. The word order is different. What you really need to remember, just change the word order. That's it. It's not that complicated. And for this type of sentences, don't worry about it. Only when we are writing, we can have a complicated sentence like that. When we are speaking, we are going to talk about maybe the time, and then talk about the place, and then talk about how. Usually, we won't have all these parts in one sentence. Okay, we have done question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2. How to make sentences in Chinese by yourself. I'm going to teach you how to do that step by step. Let's get started. Question number 2, how to make sentences in Chinese. Let's see the first example. I was very busy last week. How do you do that? Step 1, did you take notes? Write down the structure I taught you. T, time. S, subject. DA, degree adverb, adjective. I recommend you to place time at the beginning of the sentence. It's easier for you to do that. Okay, reorganize the word order of the English sentence. It becomes, last week, I was very busy. Actually, we don't really have the was there. Literally, it is last week, I very busy. Then, do the literal translation. 上个星期，我非常忙。上个星期，我非常忙. It's easy, right? Let's move on to another example. I go to the library by subway. Step 1, write down the sentence structure. Subject plus how plus verb plus object. Then reorganize the word order in English. It becomes, I, by subway, go to the library. Then do the literal translation. 我坐地铁去图书馆。我坐地铁去图书馆. That's it. It's easy, right? Let's move on to another example. This one is a bit more complicated. We can meet in a bar at 9 p.m. on Friday. Step 1, write down the structure. TSPVO. Time, subject, place, verb, object. Remember, in. We need 在 there. And then reorganize the word order. It becomes Friday evening 9, we can in a bar meet. Right? And then do the literal translation. 星期五晚上9点，我们可以在酒吧见面. You can see, it's easy, right? You may ask about the 面 here. So in English, we just say to meet. But in Chinese, we have a 面 there. That 面, you can take it as face, sort of face to face. Why do we have that? You can think in this way. Nowadays, when we meet, we don't really need to meet face to face. We can have a video call, right? But when you meet somebody face to face, meet in person, we place a 面 there. That's it. Let's move on to another example. I will go to the hospital to see a doctor tomorrow. Again, first, write down the structure. TSVO, time, subject, verb, object. Then reorganize the word order. It becomes, tomorrow I will go to the hospital to see a doctor. In Chinese, we don't have the infinitives. We just do see a doctor. That's it. Then do the translation. 明天我会去医院看医生。明天我会去医院看医生. It's easy, right? It's even easier. We just do see doctor. That's it. Let's move on to the last example. It's a bit complicated. I want to go to the supermarket to buy some fruits tomorrow. How do we do that? The same. No matter how complicated the sentence is, first write down the structure. Time, subject, verb, object. TSVO. And then reorganize the word order. You can do it in your mind. Tomorrow, I want to go to the supermarket to buy some fruits. And then do the literal translation. 明天我要去超市买一些水果。明天我要去超市买一些水果. And you can see it again. We don't have the to buy some fruits, the infinitives in Chinese. We just do it with buy some fruits. 买一些水果. You're going to find Chinese language is easier than English. Just do it with the correct word order. Just do the translation with the verb itself. You don't have to remember those conjugations anymore. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. 再见.